Hi, everyone, and welcome to Logos, my company host segment. Wake up with Logos in the morning. Have a cup of clementi with me. Clementi is for me and for you. Thank you. And we go right into our topic. But first, I want to say greetings from the throne of grace to the human race. Jesus speaks again. I thank God for you, and I thank God for you tuning in to hear what the Lord has given us a topic to share and for us to really be delivered and set free. That is my desire, is that when you listen to this segment that you have a bounce and a joy and you are on top of things through Christ Jesus. You are on the high place with God where you can dwell there with Him. And today's topic is quite common. It's moving away. So the Lord gave this topic and He said, move away from toxic things. Walk away. And in walking away, God has called us to walk circumspectly, not as fools. So we are not fools. You are no fool, and nobody's going to fool you or think that they can fool you. And if they had in the past, that is over in the season. So walk away from toxic things. First, we'll speak about toxic things. What is a toxic thing? Anything that is affecting your health. It could be a drink that you have been drinking and it's toxic. It is, when you drink it, it causes major side effects to your body. It causes you to act in a manner unseemly, not yourself, not of your character. Anything that is toxic, move away. Toxic things. So there are toxic things that we have to look into that is around us and our environment. And if you realize that something toxic, you don't be a part of that. So that is the simplest way to be healed. Move away from toxic things. If you don't smoke cigar and you're inhaling that's toxic to you because you don't smoke it, you don't like the smell of it, but then you might be in the presence of someone who does. You just have to probably move away, right? But it might be a situation where you can't move away. You might be in a transport. You might be in a car and somebody's smoking. Well, I don't think somebody should be smoking in a car. It's insensitivity to other people who don't smoke, so they'll be inhaling that. And that happens sometimes. You might board a taxi and the driver is finishing a cigarette and the smoke is coming back at you and all of that. So certain countries have different laws against that. But there are places that don't have laws against that. So you have to inhale the smoke. But we are saying we can have a responsibility to look after the interests of our neighbors. So if we don't do that, and it might be offensive to someone else, we must be considerate and not do that. So that can be having to move away from something toxic. And sometimes you may have to ask, excuse me, I really can't breathe, with that sort of toxic thing coming to me. Sometimes there's environmental toxin that we have no control over. You might be living in an industry. So we're saying even in that aspect, even the environmental laws and rules should be adhered, and those who have probably factories and industries near to where people live have to be extra cautious in terms of safety guidelines, in terms of if it's oil and there's an oil spill, they think of the results on the environment, the ecosystem, the fishes, all these things. So we live in a world where we are not alone, and that is how we have to be considerate for each other. So it's like being your brother's keeper and thinking not for yourself, living not for yourself, because we're in a world where people just think of themselves a lot. There's a lot of selfishness taking place, and there are certain things that we would have grown up with that is no longer practiced. It may seem as old-fashioned, but those things really worked well and augured well for good, healthy living amongst each other. So we're saying move away from toxic things, and we're saying to walk away. So sometimes you have to move away, and sometimes you just literally have to walk away. All right. And the other part of this is to walk circumspectly, not as fools. What does the Bible mean by walk circumspectly? not as fools. We have to be observant of our own environment and what is good for us, as well as what is good for our brothers and our sisters, right? But we have to be mindful of the things that affect us in our everyday walk in life. We have to be more observant, more alert, right? More alert to the things that we allow. So we have to inspect and circumspect ourselves, like walk circumspectly, examine. There's something that I ask God to do on a daily basis. I said, God, inspect me like a parade is taking place, and the officers are well dressed, and the president is walking through, or the sergeant is walking through and he's checking to make sure everything is perfect. And that is how we have to ask God to inspect us. And if He see anything on us, just take it off from us. If He sees anything in our heart, just remove it from our heart and highlight it, that we will know that that sin is there hiding. So that's the part of moving away from toxic things. Now we're going to add the part with moving away from toxic people. Have you ever had to move away from toxic relationships? Yes, I had to many times. Are you a person who would not normally do that? I was one of them. I would allow you. I would tolerate. I tolerate behaviors, tolerate patterns, just tolerate, because you just tolerate it because you just want to be nice. You want to be at peace. But at the other end, somebody's disrupting your peace. At the other end, somebody is interfering with your with the aura and with the environment and the atmosphere you have created or you choose to be a part of. So in moving away from toxic relationship, we must identify what in the relationship makes it toxic. So what can make a relationship toxic? If somebody is disrespecting you at every level. So if someone don't respect your time, then you have to be look into that, because let's say they always call you and they never even ask, how are you? Do you have a moment to spare? Those are good practices, because you may call someone, but on the other end, they might be doing something. It doesn't mean that they don't want to talk to you. Maybe the person's hand might be in flower. Maybe they're in the bathroom, the restroom. Maybe they are attending to flowers and they're on the outside. Maybe they are actually in a meeting. So we cannot just pick up the phone and think that that person is just waiting for our call on the other end. And if they don't answer us, we get vexed and we say things on the other side of that relationship. So every time you call, you can't get her, whatever. No, it's not those. Those things are not good things to do and to say, because you do not have a clue what is going on the other side of that person's life. So the best thing to do is to avoid those judgments and it being into a toxic relationship. Hi, good day. How are you, John? How are you, Smith? Good morning. Do you have a few moments? And the person on the other end will say if they have it or not. And if they say I don't, you can always say, well, when can I call you back? What is a good time to call you? Now, if the person tell you that they are busy, right? At least you can ask, oh, okay, when is a good time? Sometimes people have very tight schedule, and it's not that they don't want to speak with you, but they have to actually really fit you into that schedule, honestly, because on their list of importance, you are not there. That's reality. But you can still ask politely, when can I? What's a good time? And they will let you know. And if they somehow can't, they could say, okay, well, here what I'm really not able to say when I could, but as soon as I'm able to, I will get back to you. Yeah, I have major things attending to. I'm seeing about a project, and or they can also ask, is it urgent? Is it urgent? Yeah, and if it's urgent, well, then you can give them a few minutes, and if it's not urgent, then you can get back to them and really get back to them at a time that is convenient to you. Yeah, so that's that part there, and we're going on wake up with logos in the morning, and our topic is moving away from toxic things and walking away from it. So we're speaking now of toxic relationship. That was just one example we give. And then there's a toxic relationship where you may have someone in your life, the signs are there that they don't like you. The signs are there that they're just using you conveniently. They only call you when they want something, actually, or they only Every time you ask for them to do something, they always say no. When it's your turn, you always say yes. And you have to look into things like these, right? Because a relationship cannot be one-sided and call a relationship. It has to be a balance, some sort of balance. Does not have to be equal or the same balance, but there must be some giving and taking in all forms of relationship. If you are alone doing all the work to make the relationship work, if you're alone making all the contacts, then that is not a relationship, right? So you have to be mindful of some of the things you have to drop off that is toxic to you and it's not helping you. And the moment you drop off those things, first to drop it off, you have to identify those things and then drop it off, right? And as you drop it off, you will begin to see your way clearly and you'll begin to breathe fresh and again and free. So there are relationships that are not so easy to drop off because it's relationship of covenant and conversations. So you might miss not talking to that person or miss not being in their presence. That is of a deeper sense. You may have to do some soul searching and ask the Lord to intervene to sever any hurts, anything that might be attaching you to not being able to let go of toxic relationship. Relationship of abuse by the tongue. Some abuse you by their mouth, by what they say. You have to look into that and or go to the Father and say, Father, I'm being abused by words, and every time this person speaks to me, I don't feel appreciated, I don't feel wanted, I don't feel of any value, I feel like lower in value. Then you have to look into those type of relationship. You also have to examine yourself as well and everything to see if you are contributing to anything that is causing or warranting that person to react to you in a particular way as well too. Right? But you don't force yourself on anyone and you don't allow anyone to force themselves on you. Every relationship should be of agreement and mutual respect and understanding and communication. Communication is a key to all relationship working for good or for bad. Bad in the sense of if you're not able to communicate in a relationship, that is not a relationship. That is just maybe a ship sailing on its own without a captain. But if you have relationships, and you should be able to say, hey, what? Listen, you have been doing such and such lately, and I would like the opportunity to just share with you that how that could, how it's affecting our relationship. Then if you can't get in a word, then this, as I'm saying, it's not a relationship if you can't relate to the person or the person cannot relate to you. So there must be some sort of listening, and there must be some sort of silence, and there must be some sort of um, responsive. You avoid relationships where, and these relationships I'm speaking of is not basically fiance, husband, wife. I'm speaking of relationships on the whole, where you alone would share, give feedback, response, and the other person will just say, "I have nothing to say." No, I don't have anything to say. You have to watch those type of relationship because you are giving out, but they are not giving you back anything in return. If we're mindful, if you're the only one sharing, and there's the other person is just not contributing at all. Maybe they have something in their mind. They just choose not to contribute to you. They might be contributing to someone else. So you have to be mindful of certain relationship that is draining you and draining you of your virtue and most of all your time. Before we move on, walk circumspectly means observe these things, inspect yourself, right? Judge yourself and get rid of the things that you know that is not going to augur well for anything to happen further in your life. Right, and as we continue on toxic relationship. So Job, I always have to talk about this. And Job had 3 friends, and Job friends came to visit him. And as Job friends came to visit him, they came to comfort Job. But when they came to comfort Job, they actually were silent for some days. And when the silence was broken, when they opened their mouth, they actually was better off being silent for Job's sake. They opened their mouth and they began to accuse Job of doing something wrong. That's why he ended up in that situation. They actually began to speak things to Job. They actually used or words. They quoted scriptures. They referred to God in many of their statements, and they put down Job to the very lowest. Now, that type of relationship the Lord highlighted to me what is based on, you ever have friends, and I have experienced it. They respect you to a point, but inwardly they are saying she feels she's too perfect. She feels she always right. She always wants to, and they're going on and they have things in their mind. And you will never know those things when you're up and about. But the day you have need of them, or the day that you are down or seemingly down, that is the day you're gonna know who they are. Because they're going to tell you what they really think about you at that particular time. Or they're going to totally ignore you. So those can be some toxic relationship, because those three friends had Job. Good thing Job was good for himself, in that he he rebuked everything that they said and he refuted it. He did not accept what they were telling him about himself, because he knew himself better than they. And he did not buy into the guilt trip that they were carrying him on. So if you read the book of Job, the three friends, and read how they spoke to Job as though they were very intelligent, more than Job. They actually point out to Job that he was the youngest, they were older, and that older people was um, have great wisdom, and he couldn't compare his own to theirs. And we see that the friends of Job really put Job down to a very low level, even though he was already down in all that he was facing and going through. So sometimes there are relationships, toxic relationships, that we may not be aware of until something happens, and then we find out that this is how the person thought of you all the time. They let you have it in every form and fashion, and you would not have known that had not the circumstances arrived. So be careful of the relationships that you hold on to in this season. Sometimes people find it difficult, and I've known difficult to let go of certain relationship, because they don't have the strength spiritually to let go of certain relationships, because of, especially if it's a relationship where someone have been very kind to you, and now they are not kind anymore, and you are holding on to that kindness, but they have changed, they have moved on. Whatever they did in terms of kindness to you, that was for that time. You are thankful, you are grateful, but you are not indebted to them forever. What Jesus did to us, he did not hold us in debt of it. He paid the debt and he moved on, and he gave us salvation to accept or reject. It's our choice and the consequences that comes with it. But toxic relationship, your toxic relationship may be at a different level as well. You may have a toxic work environment. That is something to basically pray about, and probably upgrade yourself so that you can move out on the first door open. Or you can be very mindful of your words, be silent, use more observation and more wisdom in such instances, and dealing with things of that nature. Be so slow to speak and more full of wisdom, right? As the word says, do not walk circumspectly, do not walk as fools. Fools will not think twice before they react, right? And then after, they think of the consequences. So in all things, we just need to apply the wisdom of God and wait on the Lord. Wait, I say, on the Lord. How do we wait on the Lord? We need to weigh things before Him in prayer. That's how we wait on Him. We need to praise Him in the midst of things that we're going through. And we need to understand that toxic relationship is not a relationship for you to have or for you to be a part of. What if that toxic relationship is a marriage? What are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? Well, next Wednesday, we'll deal with boundaries in relationships. God bless you, and thank you for listening to Logos, my co-host. Wake up in the morning. Clementi is for me.